Alrighty, here we go. Welcome everybody. My name is Martin Hernandez and I'm the Professional Development Programs Associate with the LA County Department of Arts and Culture. And it is my honor and privilege to administrate this Arts Internship Program. Thank you so much for being here and making the time. The purpose of this workshop, the purpose of this workshop is to orient you to the program, go over all of the requirements, and give you time to think about what makes a successful application. Please feel free to utilize the chat function for your questions, and I will stop periodically to review those. If you are a returning applicant, there have been some slight changes to the application from last year, and we will be sure to highlight those as well. I do want to note that this session is being recorded once again, so that folks that were not able to attend this session can access the information later. If you'd like to keep your camera off for the duration of the session as a result, then we certainly understand. And for those of you just joining us, if you could please change, if you haven't already, rename yourselves in Zoom to your name, comma, your organization's name. It will just help me understand how many returning applicants we have and how many new applicants we have in the pool. So before we get started, we'd like to formally begin this session by grounding our conversation with a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgements invite us to reflect on our shared history, including histories of oppression, marginalization, and survival. As we as a department move forward with our cultural equity and inclusion initiative as the guidepost for everything that we do, this is one piece of an evolving set of practices to acknowledge and honor those whose cultural voices that have not been given space, and to root all of our work, including the presentation, in the spirit of being the change we would like to see in the world. If you'd like, I invite you to follow along with me as I read this acknowledgement. The LA County Department of Arts and Culture recognizes and acknowledges the first people of this ancestral and unceded territory. With respect to their elders, past and present, and future generations, we recognize the Chumash, Gabrieleño Tongva, and Fernandeño Tataviam, who are still here, and honor with gratitude the land itself and those who have stewarded it throughout the generations. We honor and respect the many indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather, even in a virtual space, and we commit our work in service to and alignment with these values. Thank you so much for joining me in this. So we're going to get started off with a little bit of history and talk through both the program vision and impact thus far. First, some background. Some of you may be familiar with the Getty Merrill Multicultural Undergraduate Internship Program. Our internship program is a sister program to the Getty's Multicultural Program, which was launched in 1993. Our program launched a couple of years later in the year 2000. The two programs have since run on parallel tracks and together constitute the largest paid arts internship program for college students in the country. We are grateful to the Getty for their longstanding support since this program's inception. On the screen, you can see the vision statement for the program. This language, which we revised in 2020, acknowledges that students gain a wide variety of benefits from the experience, regardless of whether or not they ultimately pursue a career in the arts. We believe that through this program, both the experience within your organizations as well as through the educational components that our departments provide, they will gain skills that are transferable to contexts inside and outside of the arts. So to date, more than 2,500 students have participated in this program. And one of the most wonderful things that we've seen in the last decade and plus is the increasing number of former interns who are popping up in leadership positions all over LA County. We now even have former interns returning as mentors and supervisors for various pieces of the program. And as you can see here on the slide, in the year 2020, we actually hit 1 million internship hours contributed to the field of arts and culture in LA County, which we just think is quite special. So now that you know a little bit about the history and impact of the program, let's talk through organizational eligibility, which is really the first block of what we're going to be discussing today. So firstly, this is a grant program for organizations, not for individuals. You must be a nonprofit arts organization that has had its 501c3 status for at least 2 years. Now, arts to us means performing, presenting, literary, or municipal. It does not include visual arts organizations or museums. Those are funded through the Getty program and as such are not eligible for our program. So again, I want to really make sure that we're clear here. If you are an visual arts organization primarily or a museum, you are not eligible for this program. We would direct you to the Getty Merrill Multicultural Undergraduate Internship Program, who provides internships specifically for organizations that are visual arts or museums. You can also not be part of a college or university. Fiscally sponsored organizations are okay as long as your fiscal sponsor is willing and able to handle all payments and contracting that is required for the program. So that's very important for our fiscally sponsored organizations. They have to be willing to be on record with us as the county for all of the fiscal processes as part of this program. This is, of course, a county program, so you must be based here in Los Angeles. That means that you are physically located here and that your mission is to serve residents of this region. You must be an actively functioning organization, meaning which we define as meaning that you have a board that meets regularly with more than half of your board members living here in California. You must also put on a minimum of 4 programs or performances per year that are either virtual or in person, and of course, adhere to all applicable employment laws. In addition to those things, you can also be eligible for this program by being a current or former community impact arts grantee in good standing with current arts programming. So this is actually the 2nd year that we're inviting folks of our community impact arts grant to apply, as long as, again, they are as long as you are in good standing with CIAG and you continue to have arts programming as your organizations. And for those of you that are not familiar, these organizations, a part of our CIAG grant program, Community Impact Arts Grant, are social justice and social service organizations who have arts programming. And we're very excited to welcome you all into the pool because these folks end up submitting really great internship proposals. And it's an exciting iteration of the internship program for us in that it really allows us to expand kind of the reach of what some of our interns will see in the program, because for some of them, they may be at these non-arts organizations that are doing arts programming. So again, current or former CIAG grantees in good standing with current arts programming are also eligible for this program. Again, just to reiterate, things that would make an organization ineligible: if you are a part of a college or university, or if you are a visual arts organization such as a museum, you would not be eligible for this program. Bear in mind, once again, that the Getty Merrill Multicultural Undergraduate Internship Program would potentially be available to you. They do have a separate application process that will be opening within the next couple of months. And if that's of interest to you, please send me a note at some point in the presentation, and I can make sure that we get that over to you. I'm going to take a quick pause before we move on to grant awards. For if there's any questions, please direct them to me in the chat. I will hold on for 1 second. Okay, I'm not seeing any questions in the chat just at this moment, so I will continue going, and I will make sure we answer all of the questions at the end of the presentation. So what do you get if your application is awarded? Let's talk a little bit about grant amounts and awards. Each organization will be awarded anywhere between $6,000 to $6,750 per intern. This grant is meant to be used to hire an undergraduate intern for 400 hours of work during the duration of your project. How much you are eligible for depends on your budget size, and we've created this handy dandy little table to make it hopefully a little bit more clear for you. This table breaks down the size of the awards based on your organization's budget size. As you can see, an organization with a budget of under $500,000 is allowed to request a maximum of 2 interns, which would yield a maximum grant amount of $13,500. Before I go on, I want to note that organizations with budgets under $500,000 will receive an additional $700 administrative stipend per position to help offset additional costs of hosting an intern. This can include things like purchasing equipment, covering payroll taxes, mileage reimbursement, etc. Last year, we were able to temporarily increase the cap on these funds to organizations with budgets under $1 million. However, due to budgetary constraints, we've had to reduce this back to organizations with budgets of $500,000 or less, but have kept the stipend at the increased amount of $750. Organizations with budgets over $500,000 may request up to 3 interns for a maximum grant amount of $18,000. Organizations with budgets over $500,000 are not eligible to receive the $750 administrative stipend. Now you'll notice here that there's a note regarding organizations who request the maximum of 3 positions here in this second column. In 2017, the Board of Supervisors passed the Cultural Equity and Inclusion Initiative that instructed our department to look into the ways we could expand our programming and to be more equitable and inclusive to all folks in the region. As a part of that initiative, the internship program was expanded from 132 positions where it had been for many years to 178 positions. This allowed organizations for the first time to request up to 3 interns. However, the expansion came with a mandate that of the total internship pool, at least 28 positions need to go to students at the community colleges who had historically been underrepresented in our program. As such, if your organization is requesting 3 interns, you must reserve at least one of those positions for a community college student if you are awarded. Your organization will get to choose which of the 3 positions will go to a community college student if selected to be a community college host, and we will work with your organization in the event that your recruitment efforts do not yield community college applicants. If you are unable to recruit a student from your community colleges, we will not take your grant away and you will not be penalized. Since this initiative was introduced, I'm happy to report that we've seen quite the increase in community college students in the program from previous years. And even in the middle of the pandemic last year in 2020, we had just over 26 community college students in the program when traditionally we had about historically, we had about 10 or 12 community college students in the program, but that number in pre-COVID times has gotten as high as 48 students in the program, which we're really excited about. So this is 3 years in the making of work that we've been doing to build relationships with the community colleges, and we're really excited to have organizations join us in this effort. So regardless of the size of your grant award, all interns are paid the same amount. This means that you will need to plan for additional costs like recruitment, employer taxes, parking reimbursement, and mileage, so on and so forth. So all interns are paid $6,000 or $15 an hour or $600 a week should they be working the 40-hour a week maximum. One frequent question we get is, where do taxes fit into all of this? Remember, the grant is to the organization, not to the intern. The intern will be hired by your organization as a regular employee. So if you use a payroll service, then your intern should be put on payroll, meaning he or she will receive $6,000 minus taxes. If you do not have a payroll service and you pay your intern the full amount, you will need to issue a 1099 to the intern at the end of the year. I cannot stress this enough. Payroll is highly recommended for all organizations given AB 5. Your organization must comply with all labor laws when hiring the intern, including AB 5. Unfortunately, I am not a lawyer or legal counsel, so it is up to your organization to determine the best path for bringing the intern in, but we do highly recommend, because of the scope of a number of the internships, that you bring the intern onto payroll as part of your onboarding. Are there any questions on any of that before I continue on?
Hi there, my name is Brian, and I am not a student. I'm just looking for an internship. Are there any internships for non-students?
There is not at this time, Brian. Thank you for your question.
Can you recommend another organization that gives internships for non-students, please?
Yes, if you could actually just throw me your name and email in the chat, I'd be happy to get you that information after this session.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to continue on. So let's talk about program requirements, timeline, and intern eligibility. We talked earlier about the organizational eligibility requirements, but there are other things we look for in organizations that participate. We are really looking for organizations who are truly able to take on an intern during the program, meaning that the student will not be banished to a desk or a closet or into a Zoom corner somewhere, to fend for themselves. Capacity to recruit, select, train, and mentor an intern is paramount. 2 years ago, we added in 2020, we added a new question regarding your organization's approach to mentoring an intern, and the panel does look closely at that to get a sense of how your organization will approach the program. So you're gonna wanna make sure that you spend time really diving into that question. There is also paperwork and data collection involved with this process. Not a ton, but we are all, after all, a government agency. Also, any organization that is new to the program is required to attend our supervisor orientation that will be held in partnership with the Getty. As I mentioned before, they've been our partners since the year 2000 and join us in the effort for some collaborative training in the springtime. I know people chafe under the term required, but the feedback that we get from the event every year is overwhelmingly positive. And myself and my counterpart at the Getty work really, really hard to make sure that it's an informational event for everybody in attendance. So we do expect folks to attend as part of participating in the program. So the program timeline. We are, of course, over here to the left of the screen in the application period. The application will close on Wednesday, October 20th, at which point we will move into the review of applications with the goal of hosting our panel in December or our grants panel in December or January. This will allow us to notify organizations of their award by mid-February and then move into contracting. So you can see all of this here on the left side of the screen. Positions will be posted on our website on a rolling basis starting April 1st, 2022. I'm going to explain all of that in a minute, but in the application, you will choose which first of the month you would like your position launched to our website so that you can begin recruitment. April 1st is the first launch date of the program, meaning any organizations who wanted their positions posted on April 1st will be able to begin their recruitment on that day. The earliest an intern will be able to start their internship is June 1st, 2022. All 400 hours of the internship must be completed by March 1st, 2023. So as you can see, I just moved from left to right on this slide with the April 1st, 2022 being the first batch of positions being posted on live to our website. And then in June 1st is when the positions can begin and all interns will need to complete their hours by March 1st, 2023. Gotta be honest, it's so bizarre to be talking to you all in the year 2021 about something that will go until 2023, but such is the way of the world right now. So let's talk a little bit about who you can hire. Intern eligibility requirements. So candidates, the students that you will be reaching out to in the event that you are awarded to your program must fall into these categories. They must be currently enrolled undergraduates at either four-year or community colleges. We define enrolled as being signed up for at least one class at the time of application. So for those of you that have been with the program for many years, you may be familiar that at one point we talked about needing half-time requirement for the student. Then sometime even before that, it was a full-time requirement. We are trying to make this as open to as many students as possible. So I only need to see one enrolled class at the time of application. Students who completed their degree between May 1st and December 1st, 2022 are also eligible. We call them recent graduates. So we have some organizations that intentionally look for these folks because they're trying to hire students. And so they are gonna want somebody who is finishing up school so that they can move forward into employment, and that's totally fine as long as they have graduated between May 1st and December 1st of next year, 2022. The easiest way to think about this, y'all, is that any student that graduated in the previous year, they're not eligible for the program. They would have had to apply for the internship program at that time. So I don't want to dive in too much about this because it's kind of a long way off, but just know that you know, we will work with you and I verify all of the documents myself. So if there are questions, we can address them at the time. In addition to being currently enrolled, the intern must either reside in LA County or go to school in LA County. So if they are a resident of New York City, but they are attending school at Occidental College, they are eligible for the program by way of their enrollment at Occidental. In the reverse, if you have a student who is from the Boyle Heights area, which is where I'm zooming in from, that goes to school in New York, at NYU, they are eligible for the program by virtue of being a resident of LA County. So I want to make sure that we're being clear here. It's they must be a resident of or attend school, one or the other, and we do see both in this program. We know that there's a lot of students that are in flux at this point because of the pandemic, but we want them to have a meaningful connection to Los Angeles. You will be asked to provide proof of student enrollment and residence to me here at the county before we will actually authorize the intern. So just keep that in mind for later on down the timeline. Things that would make an intern ineligible. They may not have a prior bachelor's degree or higher degree. So no bachelor's, no master's, no PhD, no JD, none of that. This is for undergraduate students. It's a key piece of the program. And so we will really want to make sure that they have either just recently graduated or they are currently enrolled. They cannot have participated in this program before. And this is because if we let that be the case, we know that a lot of our organizations would want to choose the same stellar interns year after year, but we want to make sure that we spread the love. And so because of that, this is a one-time only participation program. And this is also very important. The intern may not have ever been a previous staff member or a relative of a staff member or board member of the organization. As the person who goes out to all of the community colleges in particular, whether it's in person or virtual, to do recruitment and outreach about this program, the number one preconceived notion that students have about this program is that there's a lot of nepotism involved, and that in order to get an internship, you have to know somebody to know somebody to know somebody. I'm proud to say that this rule has been in place from the beginning of the program, but it is incumbent upon your organizations to make sure that you are not doing outreach for folks that are, relatives or former staff members or relatives of board members. Those folks are welcome to apply for internships at other organizations, but they cannot do that internship at your organization. And we do, again, ask for you to verify that as part of the onboarding for the intern. So we're about to do a deep dive into the structure of your internship proposals, but first I want to be clear about two things. Because of the uncertainty of the COVID-19 pandemic, we are asking you to submit internship proposals that can be completed on site with the option of up to 100 hours being worked remotely. Should there be any changes to the public health guidance that will affect internships, the department will be in contact with all grantees as soon as it's available. For those of you that have been a part of the grant program, both in the 2020 and the 2021 grant cycle, you are aware that this program has undergone major shifts in order to survive the pandemic. None of the interns were allowed to do any kind of remote work in previous grant cycles. So we are doing our best to forecast here what we imagine the field of arts and culture might look like next year, and want to provide some flexibility, but also want to balance this with what we believe is the maximum best possible experience for the intern, which is to have them be on site. Now, as we all know, COVID could make a fool out of me at any moment. And while we certainly hope that that is not the case, we are a county entity and work closely with the Department of Public Health here at LA County to make sure that grantees have up-to-date information. And so we will, should the situation change and we need to give you updated information, we will be sure to do that. Secondly, and in line with that, all equipment an intern needs to complete their internship must be provided by the organization. That most commonly takes the form of a company issued laptop or computer. And this is the case regardless of whether the intern is working on site or remotely. Okay, so moving on here. A note on the 400 hours, and this slide is highlighted for a reason. So in the application, your organization will choose the launch date of the position, which is when you begin recruitment and when the position goes live on our website, how many hours the intern will work a week, fit between 15 to 40 hours. And then from there, you will need to determine the start and end dates for the intern. This gives your organization much greater flexibility in terms of the type of internship project that you may want to propose. However, it does require more advanced planning. To give an example, let's say an organization has a project beginning in June and ending in September. So they want their intern to start as early as possible, June 1st, 2022. So this is taking us back to that slide, the timeline slide, right? With the intern starting as early as possible on June 1st. Because of that, this organization has decided that their intern will be working 15 hours a week. 400 hours at 15 hours a week is a 27-week internship, meaning that the intern will not complete their hours the first or second week of December. If the organization has not planned properly, then the intern may not have enough to work to complete after the program concludes in September. Similarly, an intern cannot start a 15-hour-a-week internship in December, as that internship would need to end at the end of June in order for them to hit the 400 hours. So as you can see, it will be crucial for your organization to think through the internship project, how many hours you will want the intern to work a week, start and end dates, as well as the time it will take to recruit students. It is the responsibility of the organization to track the intern hours and work with the student to ensure that all 400 hours are completed by March 1st, 2023. I have highlighted this in our presentation because this year in the 2021 program cycle, which was the first time that we did this, many applicants glanced over this section of the application or misunderstood the ramifications. So please plan accordingly. So again, in the application, you are actually telling us when in the springtime you want that position launched to our website and when you will begin recruitment. So please pay close attention to all of this information when you're submitting the application, because sometimes you submit this in October and then folks don't remember, but please make sure that you're paying close attention to that. I see a couple of questions. I'm going to get through these next 2 slides, and then I will get to those questions. The 400 hours. In any event where an intern is required to work more than 8 hours a day or more than 40 hours a week, overtime must be paid for the intern, and flexing hours within a work week is not allowed. At the end of the day, y'all, this is a mentorship and training opportunity for students. And so we want this to be a valuable learning experience. And we want them to see that in a healthy work environment, as much as possible, people are working their 8 hours, working their 40 hours, and they're calling it quits. We understand that sometimes overtime happens and it can't be avoided, but please know that that is an expectation that it will need to be paid to your intern, and the grant does not come with additional funds to cover that overtime. So your organization will need to pay those. Flexing hours is actually not allowed by law. And so they're not allowed within this program, meaning that if an intern works a 10-hour day, you cannot simply tell them to work a 6-hour day the next day and call it even. Again, if they are going over the 8 hours a day or going over the 40 hours a week, the expectation is that they be paid overtime. We strongly discourage organizations from allowing an intern to take off time for vacations or other extended trips, as it will affect your originally proposed timeline. For holidays, we ask that you follow your organizational protocol and treat them according to your paid holiday policy. With regards to the vacations, this may seem a little counterintuitive now that the program has a longer timeline. We understand that some organizations may want to allow an intern to take time off, and it ultimately is your call. The reason why we strongly discourage it is because sometimes interns, there's not a lot of communication there around how those trips, how long they will be gone, when they're leaving, when they're coming back, if they get delayed, all of those kinds of things. So again, where possible, we discourage it, but we understand that that might be something that comes up, and that can be agreed upon between the organization and the intern at that time. So really important slide here, things that you need to keep in the back of your mind as you're putting together your proposal. Does your proposal overlap with the school year? Meaning that are you trying to have your internship not even just start in the fall? Is the intern going to be working over the fall or spring semester? If the answer is yes, an intern will need to balance school and work. It is highly unlikely that they will be able to work 30 or 40 hours a week once school starts, given all of the things that they need to balance. So you may need to do something where they start off at 30 or 40 hours a week during the summer, when hopefully, potentially they're not in school, and then drop those hours down once the student enters into the school, right? But that will mess with your timeline. It's something that you need to consider. I should have highlighted this on the slide. This third bullet point here, you must factor in time for recruitment. We ask that you not launch positions more than 2 months in advance of your start date. So, and we'll talk about those dates in just a minute, but recruitment in the time of COVID is much different than it ever has been for this program. Part of that is because of COVID. I think students are, a little hesitant to sign up for a 400-hour internship in the middle of figuring out, are they going to school in person? Are they going to school virtually? So on and so forth. But our rolling position postings that I'm going to talk about in just a second also have changed the game. So we're requiring, we're kind of hoping that interns will continue to check our website on a monthly basis to see which new positions are posted. You need to budget time for going out there and recruiting students for your internship. I cannot say that enough. So please make sure you're considering that. Students do not have to have previous experience in the arts. So consider casting a wide net. You'll notice that I did not say anything about like majors or whatnot in the program, or in the, in the intern eligibility section. We do not require that they be majoring in the arts. So consider casting a wide net. We've had lots of business students coming into the program that are interested in kind of learning how nonprofits work, fundraising development works. We have lots of marketing students who are really interested in kind of the social media, graphic design pieces. So you can cast a wide net. Obviously the arts departments at schools are where folks have a tendency to gravitate to first, but you don't have to, end there. There's lots of different opportunities. The intern will have the opportunity to participate in educational events, dates TBD, that will be paid as part of their 400 hours. So again, it's really important that you also keep in mind that occasionally the program will offer them these opportunities. It's nothing crazy. It ends up looking close to like anywhere between 2 to 4 hours a month of optional opportunities that the intern may want to engage with our kind of spearheaded by our department. And those are expected to be paid out of the hours of their internship. So just something to keep in mind. Of course, the arts department is committed to cultural equity and inclusion. All participating organizations are strongly encouraged to recruit students with recruit and select students of diverse backgrounds, including students with disabilities. So please also keep that in mind. So as I mentioned, I kept saying like, we're gonna talk about the launch positions. We're gonna talk about the launch dates. This is one of the areas that slightly differs from the current program cycle 2021 for my folks who are currently in the system, in the program with us right now. And this is very different from what we were doing in the before times, before COVID. But we scaled this back a little bit this year because actually nobody took us up on some of the later dates. So next year you will have 4 dates in the application. You will have 4 dates to choose from when to launch your positions. So April 1st, 2022, May 2nd, 2022, June 1st, 2022, and July 1st, 2022. Those will be the 4 dates that organizations will be able to choose from in terms of when to launch their positions. And remember, launching your positions is when you can begin recruitment. So if you're saying that you want your position posted on June 1st of 2022, you are not doing recruitment in April and you are not doing recruitment in May. You are doing recruitment as soon as it gets posted on June 1st. So please keep that in mind. Again, it was something that tripped up a lot of people last year in last year's application. It is new, so we understand there's going to be some growing pains there. So these are the 4 dates for launching your positions and when folks can begin recruitment. And you'll remember I said a second ago, please don't do it more than 2 months in advance. What we mean by that is if you're posting a position in April, that position should not be starting in September, right? Because interns are moving quickly. So we want our website to kind of be a living and breathing. These positions are on our website so that students can apply and get started within the immediate future. We don't want a position hanging out on the website for 6 months and then the interns get contacted and then they get started their internship. Again, they want to get things going right away. And so we want to make sure that we're matching that energy. So question in the chat, how do organizations, how will internship participation work for organizations that do not maintain physical offices? Does the department have guidance for administrators who would oversee an intern in virtual work environment? That is something that you would need to stipulate as part of the application. You would be speaking in the application about how you plan to supervise this intern virtually. So speak to how you do that, how you intend to do that. And I'm actually going to ask for the individual that asked this question, and I don't want to say your name just because, again, this is recorded. Please, I'm going to talk about office hours at the end of this presentation. I think this would be great for us to discuss in office hours. So please feel free to reach out to me so that we can discuss this a little bit further. And then the last question that's here in the chat, If an organization has more than one intern, can each have a different schedule and start date, et cetera. Our preference is that all of the interns are starting at the same time because they start, and I'm gonna tell you this right now, I'm dealing with it in the current grant cycle. It starts to become a lot to track. Which interns are starting when, who's done the surveys, who hasn't, thank you letters, how many hours, so on and so forth. So our preference would be that you start the interns together at the same time. It also helps build camaraderie amongst interns. However, if you would like to stagger them, you are able to do so, but we would like, again, make sure you're being clear about that in the application and share with us a little bit about why that is. Again, our preference is that everybody starts together as much as possible and ends as much as possible together. But if we need to be flexible with that, then of course that we will. Okay, so that constitutes the basics of the program. So now I want to pivot by discussing what elements we want you to consider when crafting a successful internship proposal. Now, it's very likely that many of us have maybe been interns at one point. So I want to take a second to use the chat to kind of reflect on that. So if you could, using the chat, answer the question that you see on your screen. In your experience, what is one aspect of a successful internship experience? I'm going to give it a minute to kind of see what some of the responses are come in. So again, sharing from your own personal experience. And if you haven't been an intern, maybe you've hosted an intern in the past. So the question is, in your experience, what is one aspect of a successful internship experience? Getting meaningful opportunities, 100%. And that can look like a lot of different things, right? Sometimes it's the internship itself, but sometimes it's going above and beyond and having a really great conversation with an intern about what they want to do or connecting them for informational interviews to somebody, right? So lots of different ways to provide meaningful opportunities. Clear expectations and consistent communication. Yes, I love that. A dedicated mentor can provide clear guidance. Love that. Open communication between mentor and intern about expectations and abilities. 100%. Supportive environment with mentorship, 100%. So you all are hitting the nail on the head. We love to see it. And those are really things that we want you all to keep in mind as you're structuring this proposal, right? Because at the end of the day, we want it to be a successful marriage between your organization and the intern. And that really starts with the application in the way that you're thinking about and the way that you are thinking about how you're building this internship, really starting at the application. So successful projects can really run the gamut, but usually fall into the categories that you see here on the screen. Ultimately, we want proposals that are substantive. They should not be a backlog of projects that everyone else has avoided. We use the example of filing a lot. However, we all know that jobs include a degree of filing or other busy work. We're not saying that there can't be any for the intern, but it shouldn't constitute the majority of the intern's work or project. Just a note, one of the common mistakes we see in these applications is framing the proposal as a staff position. While we want there to be substantive work for the intern, they are not a substitute for staffing gaps in your organization. And I have to be very honest, the panel, when that is reviewing all of these applications, that is one of the top comments that we hear every year is this application is actually reading as a staff position and not an internship position. So again, we're really asking you to think about how are you going to structure this in such a way that somebody who's coming into this work for the first time can be successful, can learn, can be mentored, can grow, can of course accomplish, really vital and important tasks for your organization. But how can we see that this is not an attempt to fill a staffing gap, right? And how is the intern going to be able to rise to the occasion? Is something that we're actually looking for you to explain in the application itself. In addition to being rooted in a clear project, please consider these additional elements: clear learning objectives, meaningful on-the-job training and work experience, excellent communication between the intern and supervisor, a concrete project, adequate workspace dedicated to the intern, sufficiently challenging responsibilities, and integration into the organization via well thought out orientation. And if you are awarded, you will hear this from me a million times, that onboarding process for an intern can really make or break their experience. And it's something that we really encourage you all to focus on later on, should you be awarded. So please make sure that you're thinking about that really from the get-go, from here in your application. In terms of where to go for ideas, we strongly recommend checking out this year's positions on our website. Actually, I think I can. I can't. I'll put this in the chat afterwards, but if you go to our website, you can see that. So note that the position descriptions listed here are brief and are for marketing and recruitment purposes only. The application provides significantly more space for you to flesh out your learning objectives. What you see on the website is just a snapshot of what's included in the application. But I think that going to our website and looking at the current opportunities that exist there is a really great opportunity to get a sense of what are other people in maybe my discipline doing. You know, if you are in the arts education space or if you're in the music space, what are other people requesting internships for? If they're an organization that has multiple interns, what do those how did they kind of break it up into different internships? Are they requesting all 3 different positions, or are they all requesting, you know, some of the similar positions? It's just a really great opportunity to see what other folks are doing. And I actually just went ahead and put that in the chat. So if you're interested in taking a look at that, please feel free to click on that link and it'll take you straight to our website to do that. I just want to briefly talk about our panel review process so you can get a sense of what that looks like. And I mentioned it a second ago and what panelists kind of look for. So I just kind of want to expand on that a little bit. Panelists will be looking for evidence that you have given some thought to what your intern will be doing over the course of the program and how what they will be doing will benefit them. What meaningful and transferable skills will they learn? As a result, we do ask that you identify a specific primary project for the intern and tell us what that project is. We know that taking on an intern is an investment, so you could have the most amazing project in the world, but you must also have the time and capacity to take care of your intern. One of the most consistent critiques that we hear from interns is, I love my organization, they do great work, but they don't need an intern, they need a staff person. There is a balancing act required here. We want you to give interns meaningful experience while also recognizing that they are signing up for a short-term commitment. If you've participated in the program before, panelists will also consider the organization's history with the program and specifically whether there have been issues in the past regarding supervision or payment of the intern. All internship applications go through 2 levels of review. The first level of review is aimed at assessing the strength of the application and how well it meets the goals of the program. This here. The second level of review is aimed at finalizing the pool based on a number of competing factors that you can see here on this slide. So the final internship pool will be balanced across a number of factors, which include community served, geography, i.e. where the internship is located, discipline, cultural tradition represented, organizational budget size, the type of internship project, for example, a marketing or production internship, and interest in and capacity to recruit and host community college students. So I just want to note that this is a grant program that is highly competitive. We do get a number of interns a number of applications every year that we cannot fund simply because we don't have enough money to go around. So just know that sometimes the panel has to decline a perfectly good application simply because we're trying to make sure that there's a balance of all of these things, as I mentioned, making sure that there's equal opportunities in as much as possible within the different supervisorial districts, that the budget, there's a different number of organizations with differing budget sizes, all of those things. So just keep that in mind. It is a competitive program for organizations, and sometimes it means that there are perfectly great organizations and applications that are not funded simply because we don't have enough funds to go around. So please keep that in mind. If you are not a current grantee of our organizational grant program or community impact arts program, or were not awarded interns in the 2021 program cycle, then you will need to provide these additional documents. It's a lengthy list. This is all part of the guidelines, but just know that ultimately we're looking for 1 copy of the organization's 501c3 determination letter. In addition to that, 1 of the following financial documents. So you can see some of those options here. And then a copy of a history and background of the organization that's no more than 2 pages that includes the information you see here on the bottom half of your screen. So if you are a brand spanking new organization, I cannot recommend scheduling office hours enough. I'm happy to kind of dive into some of these deeper some of these deeper requirements. And again, this is part of both the application and the guidelines. All of this language is in there. If you are a current organizational grant program recipient, a current community impacts art grant recipient, or a current 2021 Arts Internship Program grantee, then all of these things are not required. So this is only required if you are brand new to internship and do not currently have an application with the an awarded application with our OGP and CIAG grant programs. And so if you don't see this come up in your application, according to the way that we built it, if you don't see that section of the application, it's because you don't need to fill it out. So just keep that in mind. So the full list of questions in the application is available on our website, but I wanted to lift up some key questions that are the most scrutinized in the application. And you can hear them, you can see them here on this slide. So the first question is really about the internship project. This is an opportunity for you to be really specific about what it is that the intern is doing. And that's really what we want to see here. Like, what is the primary project and what is it that they're going to be doing? Describe the additional day-to-day activities of the intern beyond the primary project. So what are some other tasks that they might end up doing? Again, maybe it's some of that administrative work, maybe it's, other exciting projects that they might have that you might be able to have them work on, some light research projects, keep that in mind. You will also be able to list up to 5 learning objectives. And really what we're looking for here is, do those learning objectives line up with the projects that proposed, right? And this is an easy way that folks can get dinged in the application, is they're listing learning objectives that sound great, but they're not ultimately in line with the project that the intern is working on. So please make sure that those learning objectives, line up with what the work that you're actually going to be asking the intern to do. And last but certainly not least, describing the supervisor's qualifications to supervise and mentor the intern. Again, if your organization is somebody that does this a lot, has a lot of experience, we want to know what that experience is and how you look to bring it to the interns. If your organization does not have a lot of experience doing that, then how do you plan to navigate this, right? Be honest with us, talk about what that looks like. Maybe it's more support, maybe it's trying certain things for the purposes of reevaluating them so that you can, use them later, so on and so forth. Whatever that might be, please just make sure that you're taking the time to describe the supervisor's qualifications to supervise and mentor the intern. And again, these are all questions that get really scrutinized during the application review. So again, these are the application questions that we added a couple of years ago to kind of really dive a little bit deeper into how your organization plans to support interns of all different backgrounds and walks of life. So the first question, the arts department is committed to cultural equity and inclusion. All participating organizations are strongly encouraged to recruit and select students who have diverse backgrounds, including students with disabilities. Describe your organization's recruitment and hiring process for ensuring a diverse applicant pool. Pretty self-explanatory. The second question, the LA County Arts Internship Program seeks to ensure that all participating organizations provide their students with meaningful on-the-job training and mentorship. Briefly describe your organization's approach and experience regarding supporting future leaders. Please use specific examples of strategies you have used to mentor past interns. Additionally, if you have had difficulty with past interns, please highlight what you might do differently based on the experience. And this second question, specifically for my returning folks, this is your opportunity to say, in a previous program cycle, these are the difficulties that we experienced, and here's how we plan to make sure that they don't happen again, or to minimize them, or to avoid them in the future. This is your space to tell the panel, hey, we know that something did not happen, the way that we expected it to happen in a previous grant cycle, but here's how we plan to address it. So please utilize that space in your application if you need it. And again, for a lot of new organizations, they might be to this program, they might be new to our program, but not necessarily new to hosting interns. So this is a great space, again, to share what are some of those specific strategies that you may have used to mentor and supervise interns in the past. Okay, this next slide, these are questions that we will ask you if you say that you are interested in hosting a community college student. So all we're trying to do here is try to get a sense of what your existing connection to the community colleges might be. They don't necessarily weigh in on the weight of your application, but it just kind of helps us to understand who in the field has connections with the community colleges, who doesn't, and how that might impact your hiring. Just so you all are aware, typically in the spring, it was in person, now it's been virtual. I do a series of info sessions with the community colleges to raise awareness about the program with community college students. And so this section is really helpful for me to just understand who has connections where, and if there's opportunities for me to collaborate or to call on an organization and say, hey, do you want to do this presentation with me or whatnot? Again, this is where we go to in the application for some of that information. Okay, before we get into navigating the online application, here's a final reminder about important deadlines. The application window for the internship program for the 2022 program cycle will close on Wednesday, October 20th, 2021 at 11:59 p.m. There will be no extension, so please make sure that you get your application in by that date and time. We have an internal deadline to notify grantee organizations no later than February 18th of next year, whether or not you were awarded interns. But if we can do it sooner than that, we certainly will. All contracts will be due to us by March 4th of 2022. And again, first positions will be posted online on April 1st, 2022. So those are kind of like the highlights. Before I move into the online grant portal portion of the application, which is actually the last part of my presentation, are there any questions before I move on? And I'm going to give it a minute while I wait for folks to ask some questions. Okay, not seeing any questions come in. So great. Hopefully that means I'm doing a bang up job here of explaining what sometimes feels like a very complex system. So thank you all for bearing with me. So like I said, this will be the last portion of my presentation. I'm just going to briefly walk through how to work with the SurveyMonkey Apply program, which is the online grants management portal that we use to accept all applications at this point for all of our grants within the department, but also including the Arts Internship Program. So all applicants will submit an application and grant materials in the SurveyMonkey Apply site, which can be accessed using this link that you see right here. Just some tips in terms of working with SurveyMonkey at like kind of a 5,000 foot level. You're gonna wanna create a user profile for your organization. Do not tie it to an individual. So most commonly, this is of course development staff, if you're lucky enough to have development staff or an executive level staff. But you're gonna wanna make sure that that other people within your organization have access to that account information. And that's really because sometimes staff leave or, there's something that happens with the grant and the staff is not available. Make sure that you keep that email and password somewhere that not everybody can access it, but other folks who might need to access it know where to access it. We highly recommend drafting your application responses in a Word document and then copying and paste those directly into the system at a later time when you're ready to submit it. This means that if goodness forbid something happens with the system, that you have that backup of all of your hard work and you're not reliant upon the system holding it up. And last but certainly not least, please get your application in at least 5 days prior to the deadline, just in case you have any technical issues. As you can imagine, if I usually wrap up my day around 5 o'clock during the day. And so, if you are getting in there at 5 o'clock on October 20th and you run into a major technical issue at 11 o'clock on the night the application closes, my ability or anybody's abilities to support you in that is going to be extremely limited. So please do not wait. If you've noticed, we've shortened the grant period a little bit. We used to have a 6-week application window. We now have a 5-week application window. And that's just because I am a one person administrating this program, and there's a lot that goes into this, and every week counts. So there is technically 1 week less in the application window than there has been in prior years. So please make sure that you get that application on time, and do not wait. So if you are brand spanking new to the system, and I apologize for my folks who are already familiar with SurveyMonkey and apply in the chat, but just to go through it, when you go to our website, you will need to register and to create a new account. Again, you're going to want to create only 1 count per organization, and make sure that anybody who might be responsible for selecting and dealing with the grants, that they have access to that account when you create it. So the step 1 is creating your account, which is your name, your email, your password, so on and so forth. You'll hit the button to create your account. And then step 2 is you will receive a email to verify your account. If you don't verify your account, you will see the your email address needs to be verified button at the top of your screen for eternity until you verify it. So as soon as you get that email, go ahead and do this. And then once you verify your email and go back into the account, the third thing that you're going to do is complete your eligibility profile. This step is required so that you can see the applications and programs that you are eligible for. It is very important that when this asks you what type of applicant you are, you should respond as an organization. So it's a little weird because you as an individual are going in and making an account, but ultimately you are making the account for an organization. So if you select individual, you won't actually see any of our grant programs because all of our grants are for organizations. So just make sure that you're paying attention to that as you build, when you build your application, that you want to make sure you designate it as an organization. So here on this slide, before you begin looking for the application, please take some time to get familiar with the landing page of your account. This is what it'll look like, this programs tab. So on what you're gonna wanna do is click on your name in the right-hand corner. So this is made by my colleague, Laura Guerrero Nieto. So you wanna click on your name and then go down into my account. And then in your profile, this is where you can update your name, your email address, your time zone, all of those things. Let's say that I make an account for my organization and I know that I'm going to be leaving the organization to go on to another organization. This is where you would go to change all of the account information so that somebody who's stepping into your role would be able to have access to the account. What's notifications? This is where you can select what notifications you would like to receive, but please note that these are just through SurveyMonkey Apply. So it doesn't mean you'll get a notification. Unfortunately, it doesn't mean you'll get a notification like on your phone or in your email, but you can create notifications here on preferences here in your portal to make sure that you get the messages that you want to use. We're not, at least for internship, I don't really ever send any messages through the SurveyMonkey system. A lot of the times I send it just via email. So just keep a note of that. And then here for eligibility, I want to make sure that I emphasize that this is very important. This is a very important section that you want to set up before you continue on to any of the programs. If you had an account with our fluid review system from 2 years ago, then all of this information is pulled over automatically, but you should take a look to update it. If you're brand spanking new, then you will need to go in and update this information yourself. The information that you select here in this eligibility profile dictates the type of applications you can access from our department. So as I mentioned, for this program, you can be either a municipality, a fiscally sponsored organization, and a 501c3 nonprofit in order to be eligible for internship. So you would need to be able to, identify yourself as at least one of those things in order for the internship application to even be visible to you in your profile. So you really want to make sure that you fill this out correctly. In addition, some of the information like your address, the executive contact in this form will be used to auto-populate forms in the application. So again, just make sure that you are keeping this information updated throughout the year. If things change in your organization, make sure that you're keeping this updated, and of course, make sure that it's all in place and where it needs to be before you go to apply for the internship application. Okay, so as I mentioned here, this is what we kind of already said. In the user setup, you'll select your organization. This is where you're going to select your type of org. So 501c3 nonprofit has been selected here, but you'll also see municipality, fiscally sponsored organization, county department. And actually, if you can see here on this number 2, if you were to select county department as your organization, which no one on this call most likely would, but if you did, and you went back to the programs page, the internship program would not be available to you because you would, as a county department, you're not eligible for this program, right? So again, just making sure, double, triple checking that that information is up to date and correct. So when you do fill out all of this information, and hopefully you fill it out correctly and you are eligible for the Arts Internship Program, you will be taken, in the programs page, you will be able to select the LA County Arts Internship Program and click and be able to click the apply button that you're seeing here. You do, I think I said this at the top, but I'm going to reiterate it one more time. If you are applying for, let's say, 3 interns, you do need to apply. You do need to open 3 separate applications, 1 for each of the positions that you are requesting. So please keep that in mind. You're not submitting 1 application for 3 positions. You are opening up 3 applications and submitting 1 for each position. So it's very, very important that you keep that in mind. One of the good things about the SurveyMonkey Apply system that we were able to institute last year, specifically for internship, is if you're applying for multiple positions, the system will remember the majority of the information that you have entered into the application, and you will be able, once you do it the first time, you'll be able to reuse it for your 2nd or 3rd application. So spend the time on that first application to make sure that all of that information is correct. And then in your additional application or your additional 2 applications, you will be able to reuse some of that information. There is one form, it's actually the project description form, that must be filled out brand new for each internship position, because of course, you're not really going to be requesting 2 of the exact same positions. So that form you do have to fill out, individually for each of your applications, but the majority of the application you will be able to repeat or just kind of fill in with the information that you input in the first application. That is the end of my presentation whirlwind of information. I'm going to place in the chat the link that you see here on the screen. I have set aside dedicated office hours for organizations that would like to talk through the application. Maybe you have some specific questions that were not answered as part of this presentation that you would like to discuss with me further. This is a great opportunity to do it. If you would like to just kind of discuss the nature of your project and the substantive work for the intern, whatever that might be, these office hours are a really great opportunity to get some of that information and to spend some one-on-one time with me talking through it. As you can imagine, this is a very busy time for our department and for myself personally as we work to get these programs off the ground. The 2021 Arts Internship Program cycle is also very much in full swing. I think we're just now hitting the halfway mark for the 2021 program cycle. So, I am managing both. So I would just ask that if it's a question that really you don't think is going to necessarily be summed up in a quick email, just go ahead and schedule the office hours with me. I understand that does take a little bit more time and commitment on everybody's part, but it is just the best way for us to talk through things and minimizes, going back and forth too much in emails, and just also allows me to get to know folks and who's interested in the program and who's interested in participating. Obviously in COVID land and working remotely, we've lost a lot of that. And so I really enjoy any opportunity that I have to get to know folks and talk with folks about the program and their interest in applying. So with that, I have come to the end of my presentation. I'm going to give it an opportunity. I'm just looking at the chat here. I don't see any outstanding questions, but I'm happy to take some more questions if there are some. So I'm going to hold on for a minute to see if any more questions come through. So please go ahead and drop those in the chat. If not, if you don't have any other questions, if this all felt really clear and straightforward to you, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us today. And thank you for considering this opportunity. I am really, really proud of the work that this program does, but none of it would be possible without our grantee organizations and you all joining us in this effort to give these really amazing opportunities to students, especially in the era of COVID. The amount of messages I've received about from students who said that, you know, this internship has been really transformative for them in a really difficult moment. Students who have learned just what it takes to run an arts nonprofit in the middle of a global pandemic. I mean, you know, it's been a very poignant couple of years for us on the admin side of this program. And again, none of that would be possible without amazing and strong grantees such as yourself. So thank you so much for joining us in this effort. Again, utilize the office hours if they are could be of hope to you. Let's talk about those individual questions that you might have and get you the answers that you need. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, so hopefully that's a good sign. Again, thank you all so much for being here, and I will see you on the great big wide internet very, very soon. Okay, have a great rest of your day.